Hi everyone, it is Pam from Everyday Snapshots at edsnapshots.com, and I am here today with Miss Misty Winckler, and we are joining you for another simplified organization hangout. How you doing today, Misty?
I'm good.
And introduce yourself.
Oh, yes. So I'm Misty Winckler, and I blog at simplifiedorganization.com and about homeschooling at simplyconvivial.com. But today we're going to talk more about organization and how you can organize your end of year records.
Yes, your end of your homeschooling record. So we're really kind of hitting both of your blogs today.
Yeah.
It's like double duty here. So all right. And I think one of the most relevant things about today is we're talking about digital homeschool portfolios. And there are a lot of cute ideas out there and good ideas out there on saving homeschooling work that we've seen in paper portfolios. I know our mutual friend Sarah has a really great post on her blog about how she has collected a few items of her kids, and she's done some interviews and inserted some pictures and kind of put it in one of those report binders that they would use in like a business setting to present a report to someone. And they make really great, neat little student
Like,
portfolios for
yeah,
the end
like
of the year.
keepsake.
Yeah, like a
Keepsake.
keepsake, exactly.
Or
Exactly.
scrapbook type, with, of
Kind
course,
of a
beautiful photography.
yes, yes. Of course, I think Sarah is probably rolling over right now if we say scrapbooking in the same sentence with her name. But yeah, some kind of some kind of portfolio, some kind of keepsake that you can keep, and that's great. But today we want to talk about the how to do this digitally and what some of the advantages of keeping a digital portfolio would be over keeping that paper portfolio. So, Misty, I am going to let you start with number one because I know this is right up your alley. You are the author of the book, Paperless Home Organization. So tell us the first, biggest, number one reason why it would be fabulous to have a digital homeschool portfolio.
Yes, I I like going paperless with the planning because it means less stuff in my house. The paper just multiplies, and it's hard to keep corralled, and especially I have 5 kids, so then you multiply that out. That's a lot of paper, and photos or whatever. It's just a lot of stuff, and it just ends up being piles, and it ends up getting coffee spilled on it. So I like to keep what I can digital because I am not likely to lose my laptop. So,
Oh gosh, I hope not.
so it's a
Okay,
pretty safe place to keep things.
right, right. And I have a confession to make. Upstairs in our little office storage area, which is more storage than office because it's full of stuff, is there are like two large Rubbermaid containers full of things. And you have to keep in mind, my oldest is only in third grade, and I only have 2 kids who are actually doing school. And I already have two Rubbermaid containers full of things that I just haven't been able to bear to part with.
There's just so much stuff that yeah, it just
Yeah.
multiplies.
And so, if I keep going at this rate, um, it's going to be really bad in a few years.
Yeah. So going paperless just saves a lot of space.
It really does.
Plus,
It
of
really
course,
does.
there's the searchable.
Okay, yes. Okay, well, let's talk about Searchable because we're kind of moving into something else there. So, reason number
Right.
one to create a digital homeschool portfolio is just to get rid of the paper and to get it all out of the house. All right, so reason number two, talk to me about Searchable.
Um, Searchable is what really makes digital, saving all your stuff digitally really worth the time it takes to scan things in and get it all inputted. Because, like a Rubbermaid crate of paper, um, if you wanted one specific paper, how long is it going to take to find that in that big crate? But even if your tagging or notebook system or files on your computer, even if they aren't super well consistently organized, you can still go into your search bar in Evernote or even just your computer search bar and put in a word that you know is in that file or what, and it'll just pop up. So every word that's in all of your things, all your files, you're going to be able to find.
It's going to become searchable.
Yeah.
Okay. And
it's
so
like you can Google. It's like you can have Google right there to find whatever you want.
Okay. And so as we go on today, I think one of the things we need to point out is when you're right, because once you scan anything and put it on your computer, it does become searchable as a file from your computer search bar. And so then if we go back and if we enter in, if Olivia's written a poem about kangaroos, and so if we go into my computer search bar and we enter in kangaroos, it's going to search it if it's a typed document. I think the way to make it really, really searchable is through Evernote, and we're going to talk some more about that later.
Yeah.
For it to be searchable on my computer, we would have to name it Kangaroo Poem.
If it's an image.
If it's an image, right.
Because if it's typed on the computer or a PDF, then your computer can search any of the words inside the document.
Okay.
And not just the file name, but any word in the document.
If it's a typed word, but if it's an image of her handwriting,
right,
it will have to be named as the file name.
Yes.
Okay, and if there are any questions about that at all, guys, put those on the event page. Which things are searchable and which things are not searchable. So basically, we've established that in order for things to be searchable, first of all, Evernote. Anything on Evernote, whether it's an image, a file name, something that's typed in, a PDF, something that's handwritten, is searchable. As long as Evernote can read it, it will search it.
Yes, because the file goes to the Evernote server after you've scanned it in, even if it's, an image, scanned in image of handwriting. Once you put it in Evernote, it goes over to their servers and gets OCR, character recognition, and even if it's handwritten, image, it recognizes letters and words and makes even those searchable as well. So that's why Evernote is a really great place to keep things.
Okay, so as we start talking about the different methods for how to create your homeschool portfolios, your digital ones, and we're going to do that a little later in the Hangout, keep in mind that Evernote is going to give you the greatest search functionality. Now, if you don't want to use Evernote, if you want to use one of the different methods we talk about, you can also have search functionality if by the way you name things that you scan in on your computer. So, and we'll kind of talk about that a little bit as we go along. All right, so less paper clutter, ability to search, and then I'm going to take the next one, and that is something you could never put in a paper book, and that is the ability to add video to your...
That's so fun.
Yes, yes. And so video of the dance recital or the piano recital, video of the karate tournament, video of them doing an oral presentation or a poetry recitation, or even just standing up and reciting their math facts. But what you do is you capture, even, I love photography, I love to take pictures, and I think photos are wonderful, but for capturing a moment in time in the life of a child, I think video is just one of the best ways to go. You get their voice, you get their mannerisms, you get all of those little speaking idiosyncrasies that they have that we love and they grow out of. Probably a good thing for their future career development, but we moms miss that. And then you get some academic abilities that they have for comparison later or just for memories. And so having a digital portfolio allows you to add those video moments, those video memories to your files. And I know one of the big things in Sarah's paper portfolios that she made was she conducted interviews with each of her children and wrote down the answers and stuck them in the portfolio. Well, with a digital portfolio, you could do a video interview with your child and actually have them speaking the answers to you. And so, anyway, video, another
And that
great
would be,
reason to
and
go digital.
the interview thing would be a fun, like public speaking type of practice too.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
a great idea.
Yeah. So that would be something really fun for them, I think. My kids are always wanting me, make a video, Mom, make a video. So I think that would be something for them and something for us. Okay, so the next one on our list, and we've kind of touched on this one, but go ahead, Misty, and talk about number 3.
All right. Well, just like it's less paper clutter. That means, with going without paper, so you have no paper clutter now. But digital, that also means you can then keep whatever you want. The size is unlimited. You aren't limited by a certain amount of space, like it's going to be in this binder or this folder. You don't have to worry so much about how much space something is going to take up. So you can keep pictures of all the things that they've made or scanned in, all their writing that they've done this year. The size doesn't really matter.
Right, right. And so you don't have to be quite as selective about what you keep. It allows you to keep more with your heart than what you would be able to with a paper binder. Yes, and then I want to address something about size too, and that is the size of paper. Does anyone else get really great art projects or great things that your children have made, and it's larger than an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper?
Right.
And so when you end up with those oversized articles, what do you do with them? And I know, Misty, you have a desktop scanner that you use.
It's just part of my printer.
Okay, it's part of your printer. I scan with my phone, and so I can scan, and I have a scanner app. I've written a review on it, and so I'll link to that on the event page and in the show notes. But I scan with my phone, and so I can scan anything of any size. And so if they've made a large project, as long as I can get far enough back from it with the telephone, and I have been known to stand on a chair to scan things, then I can create a scan of it. And so,
Pam, on the scanning with that, what would you say is the difference between using the scanner app and just snapping a photo with your phone?
A photo is always going to look like a photograph. With the scan, you actually get something that looks like a piece of art. So, if somebody's made a crayon drawing and you take a photograph of the crayon drawing, and one day you want to print it out again for whatever reason, let's say the kids say, "Oh, Mom, can I hang that on my wall?" or whatever. You're going to have a photo of that. But with a scan, it's actually, it looks like the drawing itself. So if you ever were to print it out again in color, it would look a lot closer to the original than what a photograph would. You certainly could say photographs, but by doing a scan, it's closer to the original, and it saves as a PDF, or you could save them as JPEGs. So either one would work. I just prefer the scan.
So it's a higher quality, and if it saves as PDF, it's probably a smaller file size?
I'm not sure, but it looks like the document that the child created and not like a photograph of the document the child created.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Well, and then on unlimited size too, in that sense, even if you have a 3D project, you don't have to save that big old thing.
Right. How many volcanoes do we have? I think there's one in one of the boxes upstairs. There's a volcano.
Really?
Yes. So
I'm always, anything like that is like, as soon as I can dump it in the trash, I am happy.
Right, but now you just snap a picture of it, and it fits neatly in your digital portfolio, whereas the 3D object would never have fit in your traditional one. So, okay, well, moving on, let's talk about the ability to share these digital portfolios. So once you've created your digital portfolio, another advantage that it has over paper is that you can share it with someone. So you can share it with grandma. You could share it with the aunts and uncles who wonder, what in the world do you do in this homeschool thing all day? And you can also share it with any regulatory body that you have to share homeschool records with. If someone is needing a record of what kind of things you're doing in your homeschool, what kind of curriculum that you're using, what kind of projects your children are doing, samples of their work, by doing it digitally, you could share that digital file with them, and they would have a plethora of information to answer any of their questions. So,
nice.
And I almost forgot, you can share it with your child.
Yeah.
One day your child is going to grow up and is going to leave the house, and just a very tiny, small, oh gosh, they won't even have jump drives anymore by that time. It'll all be
It'll just all flash
on the nebulous cloud somewhere. But they'll have a copy and you'll have a copy, and you can both go back and flip through and look at what they did when they were younger. And
you can have as many copies of the exact same thing.
Yes. Work once,
easy.
Copy many times. Yes, exactly. Exactly. So, okay, so tell us about number 5, Misty. What's another
Well, we do
advantage?
have a question on the event page.
Yay!
And that you clarify that you have a scanning app. Your phone has a special app.
Yes.
And we'll share that link.
Yes. The app that I have is called Scanner Pro. This is an Apple device. I do not know if it's available for Android, but it is available for Apple. It's called Scanner Pro. It's pricey for an app. It's about $6.99. I do think it was worth every stinking penny. I use it all the time. For things like this, but also for things like, oh, I need a copy of this page, and so I just snap a scan of it, and I'm able to print wirelessly from my phone, so within a minute I've got it off my printer. I don't even have a copy machine. I gave away my copy machine.
Wow.
Yeah, and nice. I just use... Yeah.
So there you go, talk about less clutter.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So Scanner Pro on the iPhone. And definitely an iPod Touch, I'm sure, as well. So, Okay. So now we're moving on to number 5, Misty.
All right. Well, you can include links then in your digital portfolio. So you can say, we used this, and it includes a link to Amazon or wherever it is that you got it. And so that's a great way to, just have a whole bunch of extra information available if you need it, especially if you're sharing this with other people, like you have to share it with some sort of state accountability, whatever, something, or just sharing it with a friend who might want to know what you're doing. If you link things, then you're just linking to a lot more information.
So you're talking about links to curriculum and links to resources that you've used?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, or a plan, a book list. You can link to anything out there. The thing to be careful about with that sort of thing, of course, is that links do change. And if you just link to someone's blog post, that is not necessarily going to be there forever. So.
Right. Okay, but if you link to a curriculum that you use, Math UC or something like that, there's a very good chance someone could see what you're doing and what you're using with your students. Okay, yeah. So actually, yeah, very handy adding links to your curriculum. All right, and then kind of along those same lines, I kind of added another one here, and you're saving a record of what you've done with your 3rd grader. So the next time you have a 3rd grader come around, because we have a 3rd grader, and a couple years later we have another 3rd grader, and a couple years later we have another 3rd grader, we can go back and look and see what we did with the first one. And so we're not necessarily reinventing the wheel. And so I think this is very handy for, remembering what you did with each child each year so you can use it again in the future. And then also if you do some kind of cycle, if you do a 4-year history cycle or a science cycle, anything where you're cycling through and you're coming back to the same information again, it's helpful to know, to be able to have a record and know what you did the first time through that cycle. And so you cycle back to it, you can pull it up again, and you can see what you used to reuse with younger children, or so you know not to do it again.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but my memory just does not last 4 years.
Yeah. Well, and the great thing with making this as an end of the year thing is, I've saved all my plans at the beginning of the year. So, I could go back and look at that, but probably looking at what we actually did for each of those grades would be more helpful next time around than what I thought I would do, because they're never quite the same.
Right. Right, exactly. Exactly. Okay, so now that we have covered about 5 or 6 advantages for digital portfolios, then let's get into different ways that you might actually do or make a digital portfolio. And I think the very first thing you have to do when you start working on a digital portfolio, when you sit down to plan one out, is decide, first of all, what your purpose is in creating a digital portfolio. And for some of us, the purpose might be just to make a pretty keepsake to keep for us and for our children or for other members of our family. And then other times, the purpose of the portfolio might be more to because you need a record of your homeschool to share with someone else. And so I think that's going to have a big impact on which method you choose to make your portfolio. Misty, do you want to comment on that?
I have never actually made a portfolio, so I'm just listening, trying to be convinced here that this is something I should put effort into.
Well, and that's true. It does take a lot of effort. And for somebody, we both live in states where neither one of us are required to do this kind of reporting. And so I think for us, where it's going to be largely keepsake or largely for our own purposes, we do need to decide, are we going to take and make the time to do this? And for me, I think the biggest testament is those 2 boxes of stuff upstairs that I would just like to get rid of. Mm-hmm. And yet still have a record. And also, I think I work better in a digital, I don't know about you, but I work better digitally than I do with something physical.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah. Even, I am a scrapbooker, I used to be a scrapbooker before I had 3 kids. And, but I was a digital scrapbooker. So, yeah, digital, much easier for me. All right, so very first thing you need to decide, is this something that's going to be pretty for you, or is this something that's going to serve some other purpose? And the next thing you need to ask yourself is, do I want to share this or do I need to share this? Because that is also going to determine what method you use to make your digital portfolio. Some of the methods that we're about to talk about are better for sharing and some of the methods are not. And then finally, you need to ask yourself, what kinds of things do you want to include? Because some of the methods are going to be better for including video, and other methods are not going to be better for including video. So that's another thing you need to consider. So having said that, let's go through a few ideas of different ways that you can create a portfolio and what are some of the pros and cons of each method. Okay, so Misty, I'm actually going to switch it up a little bit since I've been talking for a while, and I'm going to let you start by talking about Evernote.
Okay. Well, if you use Evernote to keep track of stuff, you have a lot of different options. You have Evernote's kind of a wide open system that you can use however you want to use it, depending on what you have and what you want to keep track of. And so that makes it very flexible to however you want to do it, but it also kind of makes it intimidating. Like, yeah, I don't know what to do. It's not really going to help you just by the way it's set up. So you could do it in a few different ways. If you wanted to save in Evernote, you could set up a notebook for each student and then have a note in each notebook where the note is a video or a scanned thing that they did or a photograph. And then that makes it really easy as you go on through the year to just kind of do it as you go along instead of one big project at the end of the year, when actually what I want to do right now is just kind of forget everything. Let's just take a summer break and forget everything.
Right, right.
If you keep track of stuff in Evernote throughout the year, then it's a pretty easy thing to do. Were you going to say something here, Pam?
Well, and I think that's a great point, and I think that's something to think about as, you know, as we're sitting here in May and kind of reflecting back on this last year. There may be some people watching, and I almost feel this way myself, thinking, oh my goodness gracious, there's no way I could go back over everything we did this past year and do this. It's too much work, it's too much trouble. But what we can do is start thinking about next year and go ahead and put some plans and processes in place so that we're working on this project a little bit at a time. Maybe that we have a weekly review time or a monthly review time where we sit down at the end of a school month, or even by term. I know you do 6-week terms.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that you're starting to get a bulk there, but I don't think it's, you know, where it's not doable. Where, you know, if you're overwhelmed by the thought of doing this for the year that has gone past, then forget about the year that's gone past and start thinking about the year that's in front of you. And what can you do from here on out to create something that's going to be usable for you? What processes and organization can you put in place now to make it easy for next year?
Yeah.
So that's all I wanted to say.
True. Yeah. It would be a lot more doable to, you know, like every Friday or Saturday, just say I'm going to put one note in each student's little folder, you know, which a notebook is kind of like Evernote's equivalent of a folder. It holds individual notes, and a note it can be about one thing. It can have a lot of things in it. You know, it can have scans. It can have a PDF, and you can type into it and have a photo. So, you know, you could set up and have a note per week, a note per month, a note per term, a note per project.
Okay, so that's what I was thinking of. You could make it be like a weekly review.
Yeah.
Yeah. One note per week, and it be a weekly review, and you could toss in a couple of scans of work that they've done that week, a video if you've shot it, some artwork, and just, you know, at the end of every week say, I'm going to sit down and take about, what do you think, maybe 5 or 10 minutes per student? Okay.
Yeah. And then the great thing is, you know, Evernote, you can say how you want the files arranged, and it could just automatically arrange them by when they were created, and then you don't even have to worry about naming them all consistently or something to get them in the right order, because you can just order by the date they were created. So doing it as you go would be a lot more doable, a lot less overwhelming.
Right.
But you could just do that sort of interview thing, you know, like like we were talking about earlier with the video, and just kind of do a big picture and still do one note or an interview with the kids on what they liked that year and what they are hoping for next year, that sort of thing, and have like one video, one scan of their last writing assignment. If you even just have one writing assignment each year, you see a lot of progress. So you don't even have to keep a lot.
Right, right. Even though you can, you don't have to. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about the practicality of Evernote. First of all, it's not pretty.
No. If you are really into graphic design and things looking all consistent and beautiful, Evernote is much more just functional.
Right. Right. Okay. And then what about the sharing capabilities of Evernote?
You can email notes really easily. No matter what's in the note, they are really easy to just hit, I want to email this, type in the email address, and it's sent.
Okay, and then what if I had a state body who was going to review my portfolio, and I had a notebook for each child? Could I share the entire notebook with another person?
Yes. You can share it through Evernote. So notebooks are easier to share if the other person's also using Evernote. then you would
Okay.
share the notebook and they would open it in their Evernote. Um, you can also really easily merge notes, and so you could just select then what you wanted to share, and it would combine them into one and email that.
Okay. So you could select maybe you know, 4 or 5 different notes that were an overview or a selection of what you've covered that year, and then
Mm-hmm.
submit those with maybe one additional note that you've created to kind of sum a summation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that would work great if you don't want to share everything that you've kept too, but just a few things.
Okay, so merge a few notes and then email those along.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, so Evernote, not pretty, but good for sharing, and you can
And
pretty
good
much,
for that text recognition.
yes, and very searchable for
Mm-hmm.
text recognition. So if one of your main purposes in keeping this portfolio is for you, so that later on you can go back and see what you did on any given year, look up links of what you did, um, then Evernote's going to be a fantastic way to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Um, okay, so let's say you really want to be simple with the way that you do this. Another way, kind of probably the barest bones, don't have to learn any software kind of way to do this would be to create a folder on your desktop, and you would label it, students portfolio, and then simply create your files, whether it be scans that you've scanned and saved as a PDF or a JPEG, um, student work that they've done would be part of those scans, artwork that they've done would be part of those scans, any videos that you've made, which would then be saved either as an MP4 file or as a movie file. If you're on PC, it might be an Windows Movie Maker file. If you're on Mac, it might be an iMovie or a QuickTime file. You could just take all of those various files and put them all in one folder. And then if you wanted to, you could use a naming convention like 001, 002, 003 to put them in the order that you wanted them in. And then if you wanted to go back and look at that portfolio, all you would have to do is scroll down those files and click and open any of the ones you wanted to open. Did that make sense, Misty?
Yeah, so you just have a folder that you put anything you want to keep into one folder.
Right. So no software, nothing you have to learn or use, but it's just all in one. It's just a bunch of files in a folder on your computer. So super easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as searchable, that would be searchable using the search bar on your computer as long as it were text that were typed into the file, and it was not an image file, or it would be searchable by file name, but it's not going to have the OCR capabilities, that character recognition, where if somebody had handwritten the word kangaroo, you can't type in kangaroo and find it using this method like you could with Evernote.
Mm-hmm.
So search capabilities are going to be more limited than Evernote. Sharing is pretty much off the chart. It's just a matter of sending the folder to someone. You might have to zip it because of the file size, or share it over Dropbox or something like that. So it's super easy to share, but then the pretty factor is way low.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's option number 2, just using a folder on your computer. All right. Option number 3, Misty, creating a document.
So that would be like the paper equivalent then, where you would just pretend that sheet of paper is that document, in Word or whatever word processor you use, and you kind of set it up like a page that you would print, only you don't print it, you save it.
Okay, and we would save it as a PDF.
That would be best, yeah, because then the fonts and all of that, it's kind of going to be frozen, and they'll stay looking the way it is.
Right, and that's for sharing.
Whoever.
Yes.
And PDFs are easy to share. Yeah.
Right. So this is opening up your word processor on the computer, adding in photographs, adding in text, adding in scanned images, and you can even add video links.
Yeah.
Um, right. Can you embed? I have never tried to embed video in a document.
No, I never have tried. I don't think that a PDF would be able to play
To play a video.
a video.
But you could definitely include a link and
Yes.
save your videos on YouTube. And then when you save them on YouTube, use the privacy setting. Um, it's not completely private, but there are three privacy settings on YouTube. One is completely public, one is completely private where only you logged into your account can view it. But there's one in between where it's if a person has the link, they can view the video.
Yeah.
And that's the
And they
privacy
won't,
setting.
with that one, they won't show up in any search. Random people searching, it won't pull that.
Right. Nobody can stumble upon your kids on YouTube, but you can host it there, snag the link, and put that link into that Word document or into that Pages document, whichever word processing program that you use. You could also do this in Google Docs as well.
Mm-hmm.
So any kind of word processing, and you would be able to make it as pretty as your skills allowed, and then you would be able to save it as a PDF, and so then it does become very shareable.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and
And
so
I think a thing we need to really remember too is as we're saving things digitally on the computer is making backups. You've got to keep backups of your computer, especially if you're saving stuff like this on your local hard drive. You make regular backups.
right, right,
Or have a backup service where it's done automatically. That's another thing where if you then put it into Google Drive or you have it on Evernote, then they're saved, on someone else's server. So everything I have on Evernote is going to stay there no matter what happens to my laptop.
right,
So
right.
that's something to really
And
remember to
Misty,
make backups.
it just occurred to me that this would be a great hangout topic for us for the future, is all the different options for backing up your computer.
Yeah. Oh, that would be. Yeah.
Yes, because I know I have, oh gosh, Crash Plan is the one that I currently use, and I have used a different one in the past, and I can't remember the name of it, but one of the automatic backups where it's automatically working in the background to back up my computer. But you can also use some of the cloud services that we've talked about before, like Dropbox and Google Docs or Google Drive, to back up some of these things. Yes.
Yeah, we should do a hangout on backing up your stuff because it's a really important thing to do.
Yes, it is. I firmly believe. And triple backup. You should always have 3 copies of everything. And one of those copies should not be at your house. Okay, I could get started preaching on that. That would be really. What happens if your house burns down? Okay. So as you're going along and saving your stuff all year, you need to create backups of your files if you're not working on your portfolio as you go. And then you also need to have a copy of your current portfolio that you're working on. And then you also need to have, I would say, double copies of any portfolio from years past that you've created and finished. Nothing needs to live just on your computer. And I can evangelize about that all day long. So, okay, so far we have covered Evernote. We have covered creating just a plain Jane digital file folder on your desktop. And we have covered creating a document in your word processor or kind of page layout program, making it as pretty as you would like, and saving a PDF. Okay, the last one that we're going to cover before we wrap this up is a presentation software. And so I'm talking about Keynote for Mac. PowerPoint is probably the one that everyone knows. Also, Google has their own presentation software as part of the Google Drive, Google Docs package. And then you can get Microsoft Office, you can do PowerPoint online. So if you don't have PowerPoint for your computer, you can sign up for an account and use PowerPoint online. But I have Keynote, and so, they basically all work the same way, but it's like creating almost like a digital scrapbook. And you can use colors and fonts and effects, special effects. Things can bounce in and twist in and twirl in and bounce out. And you can have, photographs and scans and pictures and videos, all kinds of things like that, just right there within the document.
And the kids would love to watch something like that.
Yes, they would.
That has big kid appeal.
Big kid appeal, because it's a show all about them.
Yeah.
Yes. Big grandma appeal, too.
Yes, that's true.
Yes. Yes. And these things are pretty easily shared. Most of them have a file type where you save it as a certain kind of file where it, even if the other person doesn't have the software, it opens it as a show and they can watch it on their computer and interact with it and click on it. So it has good sharing capabilities that way. I'm not sure how your state regulator would feel about it. I don't know that that's the way I would share with them. But yeah, you never know. And it's not very searchable. It is somewhat searchable. Anything you enter as text will pop up in a computer search. So, if I put...
Yeah, the name and the year is probably going to be typed into it. So if you're looking for that, then...
Right, and even if I create a slide that says Olivia's kangaroo poem, and later I search for kangaroo poem, because it's been typed on that slide, that document will pop up as one of my search results. But once again, we're back to it has to be typed into the document. These things can also be saved as a PDF, and they can also be saved as a movie. And so one of the things I did want to talk about that I was thinking about earlier was kind of file portability into the future. I'm old enough that I've worked on some programs that are no longer in existence. And so if I had some files that were of that file type, then I wouldn't have anything that would open them.
Right. So, it's the same thing as going to VHS to DVD or that sort of thing. There is an equivalent still with computer programs.
Yes, exactly. And so I was trying to think of what I thought were safe file formats. 15 years from now, is there going to be a PowerPoint? Probably. I don't really think that one's going anywhere because too many people are in love with the blasted thing. If you've ever been to a conference. But it's possible that it would go away, and I really do think that that PDFs will pretty much always be readable. There will be something around that can read a PDF because I think a lot of things are being archived in PDF format. And then movie files. Even though you can no longer necessarily watch something you taped on your old camcorder, you can have it digitized into a digital movie file. So I know with these presentations that you can actually create a movie out of them. And so you would be able to create a movie file of your presentation, and that would be a file format that would have portability long into the future.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, yes. So very pretty, somewhat searchable, very shareable to the right people. And good for all document types. So that's presentations. So 4 options there. Evernote, digital file, just a digital file on your computer, creating a document and converting it to a PDF, or creating some kind of presentation. So,
yeah.
And
let us know if you have any questions about creating digital portfolios. Both Pam and I are thinking about, writing more about this as we make our own as we wrap up the school year and stuff. So if you have questions, if you want us to talk more about it, if you have ideas for other ways to keep them, we'd love to hear that in the show notes or on the event page. Let us know.
Yes. And any information that we have so far, I know there is a lady out in the blogosphere whose name is Sue Elvis, and she's been actually writing quite a bit about using Evernote to keep her homeschool portfolio, and she's got some great posts on it. I've linked to one of those on the event page already, and we'll also include that in the show notes. And they're actually unschoolers, and that's the way she keeps a record of their learning, so that's really kind of neat. And then anything else that you guys see or come up with, we would love to see it and hear about it.
Yeah.
So
we can, yeah, if you already have it blogged about, then we would love to share your link too. So let us know those things. And I think, Pam, we are actually going to take a break for the summer now with these simplified organization hangouts.
Yes, we are going on hiatus. Don't you feel all TV-like? Yay! Yes, going on hiatus, and we will be back in August, date to be determined. Yes. And so in the meantime, any kind of topic that you would like us to talk about, whether it be digital or non-digital, the past couple of weeks we've been focusing a little more on the digital, but we do non-digital as well. Any kind of organization topic, from finding your keys to backing up your computers, then just let us know.
This morning.
Just let us know, and we'll be happy to put it on the docket and see what we can come up with for it.
Yes.
So
thank you for joining us. And
thank you very much.
See you at the end of the summer.
That's right. Have a great summer, everyone.